What we're going to make is a dirty mazemen. Super junky food. You know, it's like very salty, very carby.
Yeah. Can I dig in here?
Yeah.
That is dirty. Hey everyone, it's Kenji. I'm here with my old friend Spaeth, who it just came out with this, or maybe it's out yet, depending on when you're watching this video. It's coming out October 14th, 2025. It's called Homemade Ramen. I've been looking at this book for, I think, over a year. You sent me the manuscript because I wrote the little introduction for it. But if you've ever wanted to know everything about ramen, this is the book. It is heavily researched and tested. And so yeah, Sho came over today. He also works at Chef Steps, and I think you made these noodles over at Chef Steps here in Seattle. But today we're going to be making some tsukemen, dirty tsukemen.
We're going to make a dirty mazemen.
Mazemen. Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, what's the difference between a tsukemen and a mazemen? And just a ramen.
Tsukemen and tsukesoba are dipping ramen. So you have a little bit of hyper seasoned broth, and you have
to put on.
Exactly. So then you have cooked and shock noodles. So it's like they have a different texture. They're cold. Mazemen is mixed ramen.
Mazere,
yeah, mazere. And the whole point is with that, it's like a brothless ramen. So it's actually super junky food. You know, it's like very salty, very carby. And the process and the way it's served, it has to do with mixing. So it's almost like a, like fresh pasta sauce, like pesto. It's like you add cooked noodles to a raw sauce, and then you sort of use the starch that's coming off the noodles to emulsify it. And then you plate it, and then part of it too is like when you sit down to eat it, you're meant to mix it again. So that's
as
why
you're eating it.
Yeah. So that's why you have like little bits of stuff, like the toppings are all kind of cut up. And then, that's why having an egg on top that's a little gooey is great because it goes through the whole thing. Nice.
So it's essentially like you're doing a lot of the same sort of seasonings. Like you're going to have like a tare, you're going to have like a flavored fat, and some kind of garnish or whatever, but you just skip the broth. And so instead you just have this kind of salty, creamy.
So the thing with ramen is that it's interesting is like whether it's instant or restaurant ramen, every bowl of ramen or serving of ramen has 5 elements, right? So like the ones you just said, tare, the seasoning, which we're going to use the shoyu tare here. There's a fat. This is like an aromatic chicken and pork fat, and then noodles, toppings, and then broth. So even with mazemen, even though it's like technically brothless, sometimes they'll put a little broth in the bottom of the bowl.
Just to get it
get it moving.
Got it. Okay. So what are our steps here?
Okay, well, first of all, what we're going to make is a dirty mazemen. Okay. And this is like the only recipe in this book that wasn't mine is the dirty paste. And this is a very famous preparation in the ramen nerd community.
Okay.
So there's this great ramen chef, now retired, sadly. His name is Keizo Shimamoto. He's the originator of the ramen burger.
Oh, okay, yeah. Nice.
So Keizo also ran a little ramen shack in New York City, and it was my favorite ramen. And one of the bowls he did was a dirty shoyu. And it was sort of a mystery what was in this thing. It was like dark, it looked crazy, and it just had insane fish flavor.
Fish flavor, okay, yeah.
And then
That's right, yeah, we got the little pretty big fat.
Yeah, I think the big guys.
Dried sardines here, huh?
So niboshi are often used in a lot of different parts of the preparation of ramen. So they're sometimes used in the broth, often used in the tare. You can also infuse fats with it. So he was infusing fat with niboshi, and like classic practice for using niboshi, which is not always followed, is you just like take off the head, and then like you can see the dark guts in here. A lot of people for a more refined broth would take that away and then use the body.
So you get kind of like the loin, like the meat and the bones, and the fins.
And then so he was using like the heads and the guts to make this oil. And just like a little bit to every bowl adds a little something. But then he like
sounds dirty.
It is a little bit dirty. And then, but when you fry this stuff in an oil, he would also fry lots of scallions into it. Then you have the detritus, like like the leftovers, like the fried bits. And he was wondering how to use that. So he ended up just blending it with some of the oil, which made this paste that he would then add to his shoyu ramen. And that was the origin of dirty shoyu. So when I was doing this book, Keizo was very supportive of me. I've always been very supportive of him. I begged him for the recipe because he doesn't have a restaurant anymore. I figured it would be fine. And he graciously gave me his actual restaurant quantity recipe. And I just sort of scaled it down and tested it for
smaller amounts.
Yeah, for like a cup and a half of oil or something. But then I didn't want to do a dirty shoyu because that's his thing. So I decided to do a dirty mazemen.
By dirty shoyu, you're talking about like a dirty shoyu broth.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But part of the book is, there are recipe sets and stuff, but the ultimate goal is for you to kind of go your own way and figure it out.
You learn sort of the components and the first principles of ramen so that you can design your own bowl.
Yeah, and the exploration is half the fun, right?
Other than when you're working on like developing a recipe, is it always some kind of experiment? Because like I write recipes for my books, but I'm not really a sort of recipe guy. What about you?
I have a complicated answer for that, because initially when I was getting into ramen, I wanted to make the reason why I got into it was because I felt like the ramen that I was eating, the shoyu ramen I was eating in like the States and New York, wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. So I was like, trying to shoot for really great ramen. So like using really nice pork, really using nice chicken, using nice katsuobushi, like that's the dried fish flakes, the skipjack tuna flakes. But then, when I started doing this idea of this ramen cookbook or developing recipes for serious eats, then you get into like, it's a complicated thing. You want to meet people where they are. So for me, there's two ways that I make ramen at home. And it's usually not following recipes. For one way, which is just convenience sake. Like I always cut up chickens. I have chicken carcasses in my fridge all the time, or if I have a fish carcass, I'll turn that into a ramen stock. And then I just have noodles, and like tare keeps forever. So
Do you keep those in your fridge?
Yeah.
Okay.
So even though there's recipes in this book, and if you follow them, they're great. A big part of this is that it is really convenient to make ramen if you approach it in if you separate out the elements, because all this stuff keeps really well in the fridge or the freezer. Like the freezer is amazing.
So there's a lot of effort that goes into making each of these elements.
Right.
But once you have them, they last.
Right. And once you have them, they last. And also,
are we just pulling the strings out?
I don't really do that with sugar snaps.
Oh, okay. No, we'll do it however you want.
We can be chefy if you want, but
I'm fine with picking strings out of my teeth later. You just want them blanched?
Yeah, we're just gonna blanch them right before the noodles.
Okay, so don't do anything to them right now.
Yeah.
All right. What about this?
Well,
actually, can you tell us what these are compared to, because they look like big scallions, but
they're basically big scallions, but they're actually a bunching onion. They're called Welsh onions. In Japanese, they're literally called long onions, naga negi. So there's a lot of different negi varieties in Japan. So they have konegi, like the very thin ones. These ones are prized for their whites. That's why, and sort of like leeks, they're grown that way. They mound up the soil to
keep the chlorophyll out.
Yes, exactly, and that's because they're quite sweet. They're a little bit sweeter than scallions,
and not as sharp, right? There's not quite as much of that sort of onion pungency.
Right.
This is for the
oil.
Okay.
Let's do like a different cut for these.
Okay, so, show me.
Let's just go from this side. So one thing about naganegi, since they're so big, you can do all sorts of like fun cuts, right? You can do bias cuts. You can do and they look beautiful.
Is this going to be the garnish?
Yeah.
It's an uncooked. Right.
And you can, like, even though they're a little bit less pungent than other onions, it does help to rinse them. And
yeah. Do you like put them in a bowl of ice water?
I do.
Okay. Yeah.
I do that even when I'm making lunch, just because I like the way they look.
Yeah. It makes them like curl up nicely. Yeah. I generally do that with any scallions that are going to be garnished, no matter how I cut them. Oh,
those are much better.
I don't know.
Yeah, those look much prettier.
Well,
good job.
Thanks. Are we going to do all three of these this way, or just is that? How much
we don't need that much. We're really doing one bowl.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we're all set here.
I'm just going to fill this up with this oil.
Okay. So grapeseed oil. So just any kind of neutral oil.
Any kind of neutral oil. Obviously, I pulled this from the chef's office, so you don't have to use expensive grapeseed oil. You can just use canola, or actually I prefer vegetable oil.
Let me get you some ice water for that.
But back to your question about like the recipe stuff. For casual ramen, I don't really follow recipes because you just make a chicken stock. You have all this stuff in your fridge like the tare. But I recently went to Cincinnati to this ramen chef in Cincinnati.
Is that Ramen Lord?
No, Ramen Lord's in Chicago.
Oh, right, okay.
But there's this place called Cafe Mochiko in Cincinnati. It's a husband and wife team. It's a like Asian themed bakery with wonderful baked goods during the day. Elaine is an amazing pastry chef. And at night it turns into like a sort of Japanese restaurant. And Eric, Elaine's husband, he's making some of the, like, I think it might be the best ramen in the country. and I sent the book to him to get a blurb, and he was very kind and gave me a nice blurb. But then he said, it seems like you haven't really worked in a ramen restaurant. Do you want to come and work for a weekend to see what it's like? So I went, and it was so good that I was like, should I try to start trying to make ramen that's this good? But for example, like these noodles, Eric makes his own noodles, and he uses a very small fraction of egg in his noodle formula.
Okay.
Like whole egg. And for a home cook, this is super annoying, right? This formula, which is for 8 portions of noodles, uses 16 grams of whole egg.
Okay.
So you're like, what are you going to do with the rest of the egg?
Yeah.
But because Chef Steps is, kind of extra, they're like, let's
do
do
it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're going to do this recipe, and they're fun. They're so fun to eat.
And what does that egg do for them?
So in the book, I have a couple of recipes that use egg white powder, right? And egg white powder is added to stuff it's a stabilizer, basically. It's a gel stabilizer. So it's like, a ramen noodle, or most any noodle is, sort of a scaffolding of gluten around which the starch gel basically forms when it cooks. So for tapioca starch, when you add it to wheat starch, it changes the nature of that starch gel. And then if you add in egg white, it actually makes it last longer in the fridge, basically.
Okay, got it.
So, and also it's like for Zimmermann, when you shocking the noodles, it produces this really like Q, like the chewy texture. So like when it's shocked when it has egg white, it's got a lot
more of that chew. Got it. How many different noodle recipes are in the book again?
I was actually counting it yesterday. I forget. It's like 8 or 9.
8 or 9, right?
Because some of the recipes share noodles.
And what equipment do people need at home to make their own noodles?
Basically, just at bare minimum, a pasta sheeter. So like
a hand crank pasta roller or a KitchenAid attachment.
KitchenAid attachment is the most convenient.
Do we need to do anything in here? For that?
Let's just throw these in, and we'll see what they do.
Straight in.
Let's just start frying. So all you're doing here is you're infusing the oil with scallion and niboshi, and all you're trying to do is just not burn the scallions, because the niboshi don't have any water in them. They're very dry. They're not going to burn before the scallions will. So we got to be a little bit careful here. Because
we don't want it to
overflow. So you just
I see. Okay.
You add it like a handful at a time.
Okay.
As you can see, we should
have done in the wok.
Shut down. So the paste is the byproduct of this process. The main
so
product
this is the oil is the product.
The oil.
Got it.
And it's great on any noodle soups. You could use it as the base for a stir fry.
Are you familiar with like Shanghai style scallion noodles? Yeah. It's pretty similar, minus the fish, but making like a really deeply scallion infused oil and dressing noodles with it is
Well, like ramen is, Japanese, Chinese food.
Right.
So it's all those techniques are they're all very similar.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of Japanese people would consider ramen still a Chinese food.
On a base level, yes, everybody recognizes that, but then there's we're so proud of ramen as its own like branching thing.
How far are we looking to let this go now?
Just until they just start to take on brown.
Okay, not quite there. Tell me about like your book writing process, because I know how I write cookbooks.
How do you write cookbooks?
Very inefficiently. They take a long time. I mean, I know this project has been in the works for a while, since the pandemic, basically, was when you came up with the idea.
Well, it was just, I was sitting at my in-laws' house in December of the initial pandemic, and I was just so bored out of my mind. I was like, I need something to do. And the process was actually fairly simple, because there's like several origins to every idea. But I had originally thought of trying to do at Serious Eats a kind of like learn how to cook using a single dish, right? Basically, the way I learned how to cook was Jacques Pepin and your stuff on Serious Eats. But the way I progressed was I got super into ramen. And once you start getting into anything, all cooking is transitive.
Transitive in that like the properties of one type of cooking will apply to another type of cooking.
So
it does. Water always boils at the same temperature.
Yeah, and that there's a difference between simmering something in water and boiling something, or like, why you blanch stuff. Like all that stuff is applicable across any cuisine, right? And so I learned a lot about cooking just by trying to figure out how to make good ramen. So I thought, like, let's flip that back and say, if you wanted to learn how to cook and you love ramen, you could use ramen as the way into cooking more generally. So that was the basic idea for that project. And when I was like, I'm going to write a book, I was like, let's just do that. But then, of course, that doesn't really work as a concept for selling something. So what ended up happening was I wrote a ramen cookbook that I've like tried to smuggle in a technique cookbook, you know? So
Right.
So like did I need to?
I mean, I think that is the best way to learn is like when you learn without even realizing you're learning just because you love what you're cooking, you know, or what you're doing. How are we looking here, by the way? Is that a little more?
Just a little bit more. Okay. I get sort of irritated when there's a cookbook that doesn't explain something to you in totality, right? So it's like, it's a primary resource, right? You don't need to go elsewhere for information. And it looks great.
That looks good.
And that was sort of the goal for this book. So it's like, you know, I do a fresh fish ramen. I'm not the best at cutting up fish or butchering it, but I figured it would be a dereliction of duty not to show that.
Right.
You know? So we do it. But like in terms of the writing process, it was fairly easy for me.
Really? Okay.
Because it's, you know, like because ramen is already broken up into these elements, it already just lends itself to a structure, you know?
The organization was pretty straightforward.
So you have five elements, you introduce them, and then you go into how to make them, and then you give recipes, right? So that it just sort of presented itself like that to me. And then in terms of recipe development, that was actually very challenging, you know, because as you know, when you're cooking and you're not doing recipes, you do all sorts of stuff that you're just not even thinking about.
Right. Did the work you were doing at Serious Eats, you know, like working with Daniel, working with home cooks?
Yes. I mean, Serious Eats was hugely eye-opening for just recipe development in general. The funny thing about these, like for any cooking website is...
Are we doing this, by the way?
Okay. Some of the...
All this straight in there?
Yes.
Okay.
There are some amazingly ambitious home cooks, you know, and they're drawn to places like Serious Eats, like America's Test Kitchen, like Chef Steps. So then when it's not the best representation of like the average home cook. And
right. But that's also, you're likely finding your audience there, right? The people who are going to be... there's no one size fits all for everything, right?
But you always
just like you don't need, like not every cookbook needs to explain every technique. Can we just drizzle it in with this?
Yes.
All right. Here, why don't you lead the way on this?
Let's see. It's okay to have more oil. You just want enough to get it moving. And then the oil...
And do we season that?
No, not seasoned. So the seasoning for...
The niboshi are pretty salty?
They're a little bit salty, but not enough to season the bowl or the noodles. So that's why the tare comes in, right?
Got it.
Let's see. That'll work fine. So the key here is like you just really... The niboshi is quite chewy, right? So you need to really blitz it.
So you're looking for like a paste?
That's why it's called dirty.
Yeah.
It looks very dirty.
Oh boy. It reminds me of the Basomatic.
The what?
It's an old Dan Aykroyd SNL fake commercial for a blender called the Basomatic, and he just drops whole fish into the blender.
Because Super Basomatic 76 is the tool that lets you use the whole bass with no fish waste without scaling, cutting, or gutting. Now adjust the control dial so that bass is blended just the way you like it.
All right. That should be pasty enough. So what happens here is this is quite liquidy.
Look at that. Okay.
So over time, the solids will sink to the bottom and the excess oil will rise to the top. And it actually, you know, if there's more oil in the paste, the flavor is like dulled a little bit.
Right.
Which is actually not a bad thing with this because it's fairly intense. But generally speaking, it's like you prepare this and then you let it sit in the fridge and then there'll be a layer of oil on top, which is great for preserving it. And there's like this like sediment at the bottom that you would scrape up to, you know, add to stuff. And so then with that, we're ready to go.
We're ready to go. Should we poach an egg in here? Is that blanch some beans, poach an egg?
Yeah.
Before we cook the ramen?
Yeah.
Let's poach 2 eggs and make one portion at a time. We'll try one and then we'll make another bowl in case anyone hasn't seen this like trick that I've showed a billion times. If you strain your eggs before you poach them, they poach much cleaner.
This is a classic.
Yeah, I think we did this in Serious Eats days. You get all that loose stuff out. How's that look?
That looks great.
All right, we got our poached eggs. We got our...
The sugar snaps. We only need like 4 or 5 of those, like, you know, just for garnish. Yeah, maybe a little bit more.
A couple extra.
When the dressing the bowl happens, you need like a fairly largish mixing bowl for whipping it around.
Yeah. And what kind of bowl do you want to serve in?
Whatever you want.
This guy.
Yeah, that'll be great.
So you actually work with the same publisher and same editor as my last book, The Walk.
Mm-hmm.
Well, same publisher as both books, but Melanie Tortoroli from Norton edited both my last book, The Walk, and she edited Ramen. How did you find the whole process?
Well, I mean, I think Melanie's great. She like believed in it, you know, in a way that was like, she was very supportive of stuff I wanted to do. She never said no to anything, but she did, you know, offer cautionary advice if it sounded a little like weird or if I was doing too much. And you just needed like a tablespoon measure for the seasoning.
A tablespoon measure?
And a spoon for the fat.
So Melanie believed in you.
Yeah, and I just think that she's great to talk through your ideas with. She's super knowledgeable. But she's also fairly hands-off in a lot of different ways, which I liked, you know. And she basically said at the beginning of the process, I can be as hands-on or hands-off as you want.
If you're passionate about a project, I think she understands that, like, yeah, people do their best work when they're really into something. At least for people like me and I assume like you, I don't work well when people are telling me what to do,
right?
or telling me, hey, you should work on this idea. It's like, I don't know, like I'll just do the idea I want. And Melanie was very, very good at that. Very good at like sort of allowing you to do that and encouraging you to do that, but also offering feedback where it would genuinely improve those ideas.
She was very insistent at the beginning that she was like, the timelines and deadlines don't matter as much to me as the book being great.
Yeah.
Which you know.
That's why
I mean, when you're going, like I had never done it before, so you're talking to the other publishers and they're like, you have to have this completed in a year. And that's a big part of it.
Right.
And I was like, I don't know if I can do that. I'm working another job, you know. I didn't need that stress. And it ended up being that I did complete it fairly quickly. But I think that's partially because I didn't have something hanging over my head, you know.
I have never completed a book even within double its projected timeline.
I think we have just about a minute on this. These cook for like a fair amount of time.
All right, so tell me about the tare.
So, the tare, this tare is fairly salty because it's for the chef's test recipe that we're doing. But this has kombu, sake, mirin.
It's a pretty high proportion of soy in there.
Yes, it's mostly soy, and there's salt. There's added salt too.
Oh, wow.
Sugar,
Okay.
And then I also add katsuobushi, which is like gives it a little bit sourness, and that's pretty standard for a lot of the tares in the book. You know, it's like those ingredients, maybe with some niboshi added, but then you can also go super simple. It's like one of the tares is just a blend of soy sauces.
All right. How long do those cook for?
We're cooking these for 210. They can go for a little longer. Okay.
Can I grab one and?
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah, they got that kind of that slipperiness.
I really like these noodles. Okay, see, it's already formed this paste at the bottom.
Oh yeah.
So now it's more pasty and less oily. So we're gonna add just like a little bit in there. And then now you just maze.
Oh, that's fishy.
Yeah. Sure is. Get the cats.
It smells like someone like fried fish and scallions and then just blended them into a paste.
Who would do that? So it gets a little creamy, you know, because it's emulsifying a little bit.
I mean, this is like just the way you would do a pesto, really. Like your hot noodles, your sauce, and then no cooking after you add them together.
So you do your best to like get it in the bowl and sort of layer it in. Make a little nest for one of these eggs.
Okay.
Let's see.
Okay.
All right. And then maybe a couple of... The egg and the greens are necessary because this is super salty and super, highly seasoned. So you need something to cut it. And then I like a lot of onions. And there you go.
Awesome.
That's a dirty Mazemen.
All right, so we break that yolk and then
Mix. Mazemen.
So you can do this with just a raw egg yolk also.
Yeah.
Or with like an onsen style tamago you were saying, right?
The thing about that though is just because of it's so salty. You need the extra material from the egg. So if you're just doing an egg yolk, you'd probably season it a little bit less.
Just so that you dilute that salt level.
So you don't die.
Okay, can I dig in here?
Yeah.
Woo. That is dirty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. This might be my favorite fried, dried, blended fish preparation. The best I've ever had.
How do you like those noodles?
They're nice and springy and stretchy, and they got like a little slickness to them.
So it's like now you get a green
excellent,
snap pea, and you're like, thank goodness.
I don't find it too salty.
Really?
I mean, it's salty, but
That's sort of the way I feel about the greens. Like,
I certainly wouldn't call it too salty.
One of my favorite things in a bowl of ramen is the blanched spinach, or like the vegetable that's just like completely bland, because then it's like this little island of I'm gonna reset before getting back into the the super salty stuff.
A lot of like sort of Japanese food is like that, where there are a mix of like bland things and heavily seasoned things. So you have like really salty pickles, or like a really salty sauce, and then you have like a bite of plain rice, or a bite of plain tofu.
Like, even the chashu in a lot of classic ramen places is fairly bland. It's also it's bland and chewy. So it's like it serves a function. It's not that they're just choosing to overcook their stuff. It's that you got all this fat, you got all this salty broth, and noodles are kind of soft, so you need something just to mix things up a little bit.
It's a different philosophy from. Yeah, like Western food is like, you're taught in like when you're cooking like French, Italian food, whatever, that like every element should be seasoned correctly on its own, so that when you combine them, the seasoning level is all correct. Whereas in Japanese food, Chinese food, even like Thai food, it's like you might have something that's like super bitter or like super spicy or super acidic, but they're not necessarily all going to be mixed together. You take turns eating them so that...
And you have the plate of raw vegetables too to cut it. Like some of the recipes in here are basically just to showcase how ramen is made, by some people. So like some places, the chashu will just be stuck in the soup pot, and then they'll fish it out when it's tender, but it's completely unseasoned, right? So then they season it a little by like dipping it in a tate afterwards.
What's the part that you are happiest about, or the part that you think home cooks would find the most appealing to start?
I think with any cookbook, it's like, how do you read a cookbook? If you are a reader who walks into this trying to find just a single recipe that you want, I would say, follow your tastes. And there's like a vegan ramen recipe in here. So if you're vegan, that would be interesting to you. But I would say the recipe that I like the most in here is the chicken, pork, and niboshi one.
Okay.
So that oil that we made is part of that recipe set.
Well, thank you for coming out.
Thank you for having me.
It's really good to see you. Homemade Ramen, show Spaeth, out October 14th, 2025. If you are at all interested in making ramen, it is an incredible book. This is delicious. And I think if people can get signed copies, if you're here in Seattle, there's going to be a few signed copies over at Book Larder.
I think so.
Yeah, there might be some signed copies around wherever you go do your book tour, but otherwise you can get it wherever you buy your books.
Yeah.
And you should follow Show. You're just Show Spaeth on Instagram, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And you should also follow Chef Steps, because we're doing amazing stuff at Chef Steps, including a ramen package that's coming out soon.
Yeah, I sometimes do stuff with Chef Steps too. Yeah. All right, guys, gals, non-binary pals, thank you so much. Thank you, Show. If you look down in the description, I will link this recipe as well. All right, see you later.